Hello everyone, my name is Lorand Szasz. I'm a speaker, business owner and author. Today I have the honor to have an interview with a very nice person that I admire a lot. You might know him because of the series of books that he wrote and made him successful and well known around the world, Chicken Soup for the Soul. He had a lot of declines, as far as I know, 144 declines from publishers before managing to publish the book, and afterwards, the success that has this series of books. He's also known in the US as the #1 success coach because he created the most millionaires during his coaching and training sessions. You probably guessed is Jack Canfield, and it's an honor to have him in Cluj, in Romania. It's the first time that we have Jack in Romania. Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Jack, I have a few questions just to give good quality content for our viewers about success and success principles for life and for business. My first one would be, you have already 40 years of experience in coaching and training. Which would you think are the most important criteria for success in life generally? Not in business necessarily, not in career, generally in life.
I think #1, you have to decide you want it. You have to decide you want to be successful. You have to define, what does success mean to you? Does it mean a lot of money? Does it mean having your own business? Does it mean being a published author? Does it mean being a successful football player? Whatever it might be, you have to decide, what is success? What do I want? What does it look like? And I really tell people, you should look at all the different areas of your life: financial, job and career, fun and recreation, relationships, health and fitness. What possessions do you want to own? What things do you want to experience before you die? Do you want to go to the Great Pyramids? Do you want to go down the River Nile? Do you want to go to the Great Wall of China? Do you want to, scuba dive? What do you want to do? And then finally, philanthropy. I believe that true joy ultimately comes from serving others. And so what contribution do you want to make in your life? So, if you have all of those things clearly defined as what that would look like for you, then you can work toward achieving that. And if you do, you're going to have a fulfilling, meaningful, well-balanced life. You're going to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, as I like to say.
So we shouldn't put success just next to money and financial.
No, when I was younger, I thought success meant that. It meant being successful, it meant being powerful, it meant being famous, it meant, owning your own company, whatever. But what I've realized over the years, and my new definition of success, is fulfilling your soul's purpose. I believe each of us has a purpose that we were born to create in life, born to fulfill. So some of us are meant to be doctors, some of us are meant to be musicians, some of us are meant to be chefs. You see these kids, when they're 5 years old, they're in the kitchen wanting to help. When they're 10, they want to be driving the car already, or they're taking things apart and putting them back together again. They end up being mechanics and inventors, whatever. And so as we fulfill that purpose, we create joy, and we also create wealth. Basically, you will always be given the abundance you need to fulfill your purpose. You may not have the biggest house in town, but you'll have all the resources you need to build your restaurant. I was watching an interview with Dave Ramsey last night, the great chef, and he said, I've worked hard. He grew up in Scotland, he was poor, and he decided he wanted to own his own restaurant. He worked like hell to really be a good chef, and he worked with all these different restaurants and had mentors. And to this day, he works very, very hard. But he knew at a very young age this is what he wanted to do. And so he went and he did it. And now he's like world famous. And he said, I had a television show, but it wasn't because I wanted to be on television. It's more of a documentary. They just came in and filmed whatever they filmed. And I just wanted to be the greatest chef on the planet. It just happened to be interesting in my kitchen, so they wanted to do a reality show. So I think, each of us has this thing that we're meant to do. And it might not make you wealthy, it might make you happy. Like my son is a DJ and a hip hop artist. And so he doesn't make a lot of money. He's got his own little recording studio. They've actually won one Grammy Award that he's been part of. But he lives a very modest life, but he's happy. Every day he's making music, he's spinning records, and he's, recording for his friends and himself. I think he's on like 9 or 10 albums that are, very well known in the San Francisco area. Not famous like Michael Jackson was, but he's happy. And so you'll always have enough to do the thing you love to do if you follow your heart, if you follow your joy. So for me, that's what success is, doing the thing that's meaningful, that you enjoy, and that you get pleasure out of. And ultimately, when you do that, it helps other people. You know, like my son helps other people have a great time. And it takes their mind off work, and they enjoy music and so forth. And like we just ate at a great restaurant today, you and I, and we had a great meal. So whoever's cooked that meal, I'm sure loves doing it. And so everyone wins when people follow their heart, follow their joy.
You said that Ramsey, he worked hard.
Yes.
Do you think this is also important in order to have success in something in life, in career and business? And
Yeah, I think you have to work hard, but if you do something you enjoy, it doesn't feel like hard work. You know, I actually have a program in the United States called Effortless Success. And the idea is you still have to work, but when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like effort. You know, when I'm writing, I'll often be writing a book, and I'll start writing at 10 o'clock at night when my wife goes to bed, let's say. And the next thing I know, I'm typing and I hear birds chirping, and I look out the window and the dawn's coming up. And I've just been in a zone loving to write. And I worked, you know, from 10 till 6, that's what, 8 hours at night. Most people say, oh, you work really hard. But I enjoy it. It's fun for me, you know, so I love training. You know, I mean, I could retire tomorrow. I don't know, I'd have to be here in Romania doing this workshop. I have enough money to retire. I have tens of millions of dollars. But this is too much fun. Why wouldn't I want to do this? You know, so for me, it's like an adventure.
how do you discover what you love to do?
Well, you can do something called a joy review, where you look back. I have a chapter in my book, The Success Principles, where I talk about a woman who was going to Ohio State University. All of her friends said, you should be a veterinarian because you love animals. And she did love animals. But when she got to Ohio State, she's studying anatomy and physiology and biology and biochemistry. She hated it. She didn't love science so much. And she said, I'm miserable. How am I going to decide what I love to do? And she said, I closed my eyes and I spent about 20 minutes thinking, when was I happiest in my life? She was happiest when she was a student body president in high school. She was happy in college when she was like, the head of her sorority. She was happy when she was leading high school kids to have leadership conferences at Ohio State University, like the kids from their different schools that were the school government. And she said, I love leadership. So she went to the university and said, I want to get a degree in leadership. They said, we don't have one. And she said, well, that's ridiculous. You should. May I take a series of courses and design an independent study on leadership? So she took psychology, speech, persuasion, things like that. And then she also worked with some people who were leaders in the community, studied with them. And she ended up with the first degree ever in leadership. Now we see leadership programs all over the world, Harvard and places like that, and I'm sure here at the universities as well. And she then went on to become Miss Virginia in the Miss America contest. And because of that, she got a year to do whatever she wanted. And she started going around the schools teaching leadership, primarily to young ladies, young girls. And now she has a seminar company that teaches leadership to college students, high school students, and corporate leaders. At one point, she was working in the Pentagon when she was 26 years old, teaching leadership to military people. So, what is it that makes you come alive? What makes you feel the greatest joy? And if you don't know, then the thing is, lean into a lot of different things, try them out. I had a friend who loved to cook, and he said, God, I'd love to have my own restaurant. And I said, before you quit your job, he was a foundation executive, I said, why don't you go work in a restaurant for a couple of months and just see what the restaurant business is like. And after 2 months, he said, there's no way I'm running a restaurant. It's way too much work. You got to be there early in the morning. People try to steal the food. You got to watch the money. You got to go buy the food. People, your chefs don't come in. They're hungover. He said, I don't want to play that joke. But he didn't know that until he leaned into it and tried it. So now he just does big dinner parties every couple of months.
Yeah. Maybe you already know about a little bit about Romania and the political stuff over here. A lot of Romanians, and I saw this also when I worked in other countries, that they use this situation just to excuse themselves not pursuing their dreams. Do you see also this happening in other countries? You travel a lot, and you do people using government and politics to...
Yeah. So one of the first principle in my book, the Success Principles, says take 100% responsibility for your life. And I have a slide, which you'll see tomorrow in my workshop, which says give up all blaming. And we blame the government, we blame the Congress, the Parliament, we blame the Prime Minister, we blame the Department of Health. We blame our parents, we blame the neighbors, we blame our wife, we blame our boss, we blame our coworkers, we blame our employees. Everyone's blaming someone else for why they don't succeed. And we know that we can go to any country where we have corrupt governments, where you have governments that don't care about the people, and you still see people succeeding. So if a variable it's called an independent variable if it doesn't affect everything. You know, the reality is we're all affected by gravity. None of us can escape gravity. That is, we can't. Nobody complains about gravity. Why don't they complain about gravity? Nothing you can do about it. But we complain about governments because there is stuff you can do about it. You know, here in Romania, you saw people go to the streets and the government changed. You're still not sure what'll happen. It's been very recent. But what happens when people say, I don't like that, they elect new people, or there's a revolution, or there's an evolution, or people leave the country and go somewhere else, or they manage to make something happen in the country even when everything is corrupt. So the reality is it's not up to the government to make our lives work, it's up to us to make our lives work. And so it's much easier to blame them than it is to take responsibility, try new things that may not work, experiment, and work hard and achieve what you want.
That's interesting. Do you think that education has an important role in success, like
Totally.
Formal and non-formal education?
Both. I think formal education, when it's offered, should be taken because you'll learn to read and write and do math and do a lot of things that are valuable. Also, in formal education, you make connections with other people, like in university, that can become colleagues and friends later. You know, some of my graduates from college became governors of states, became presidents of corporations, so it's useful to have those connections. But the informal education is also valuable. You know, my informal education, some which took place in trainings, some which took place just through friendships, some which took place through reading. I have a friend named John Assaraf who's in the movie The Secret. He's the one with the house that had the vision boards and the big house. And he never went to college. He's read probably 3,000 or 4,000 books. He makes $14 or $15 million a year minimum. And it's all because his informal education took place in a steam bath. He was working in a men's club, like a gymnasium where men would come to work after work, and they would talk about their businesses and the challenges they were having in their workplace, and they would give each other advice about how to be more successful in business in the steam bath after they'd worked out. So he would hang out in there. He said, I must have lost a lot of weight. he would just hang out in there, bring people water, towels, so he could learn from them. And he said, I got most of my education in that steam bath. And then eventually they realized he was a young, bright kid who was ambitious, and they started mentoring him as well outside the steam room. But he just would constantly ask people, you know, I teach this to people. A friend of mine wrote a book called Never Eat Alone, which meant always have someone to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with if you're, you know, so that you can, if I take you to lunch and I ask you a bunch of questions, which I actually did today, I learn things. And you ask me questions, and I think you learn some things as well. And so the idea is we're constantly learning from our experience and from other people. And I teach people this. Try to interact with people that are one level above you. So if you're making $50,000 a year, try to interact with the people that are making $75,000 or $100,000 a year. If you're making $100,000 a year, try to hang out with people that are making $500,000 or $1 million. You know, belong to their club. Be willing to chauffeur them around. I tell you a quick story. A man in America who was very, very successful was named Lou Tice. He had this program called the Executive Excellence Program. And there was a lot of things I wanted to learn from him. I knew the content of what he taught, but he was really successful. He was making $8 million a year when I was making about $140,000 a year. And I said to Lou, I called him up and I said, if you ever come to LA, let me be your chauffeur for the day. And I just want to ask you questions. So he said, okay, why not? So he came down, I picked him up at the airport, drove him around to his hotel, to an event that night, back again to the airport. And I just peppered him with questions, question after question. And about 2 years later, we were both bidding on a proposal for the LA County Office of Education to create a program for people on welfare, to get them off welfare. And Lou and I were the last two competition. Everyone else didn't make it. And I beat him out. And he wrote me a very nice letter saying, you're a very good student.
You outlearned the teacher.
Yeah, I did.
It's interesting. I told you at the lunch that I worked in Action Coach, and my former boss was Brad Sugars, and I asked him one day, what should I do in order to earn more than you do? And he was already a billionaire, so and he was very very funny and very straight to me, and he said, when you will outlearn me, you will out-earn me.
That's very good.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's what Brian Tracy says, if you want to earn more, learn more, and become more valuable to more people.
Yeah, that's true. In my job, I work with entrepreneurs mainly and salesperson. If you would give them just one advice, business and sales, to have more success in business and sales, what would be?
Well, let's start with sales first.
Sales.
With sales, I would say you have to, first of all, believe that you absolutely are going to get the sale. You have to care more about the customer than you do yourself. Most people, when you're selling, if the salesperson, if I'm selling you something, and you get the impression that I'm doing it because I need the money, and it's not about you, you're not going to trust me. So I have to be coming from service. I want to give you the best product, the best service for your money that you need. And if I can't do that, I really shouldn't be trying to sell you something. And the other thing is you have to be willing to get rejection. A friend of mine wrote a book called Go for No, because most salespeople are afraid of hearing no. We know that it takes about 6 no's before you get a yes, even from the same person. Most people give up after 3 or 4 tries. So go back to the same person, keep going back, going back, going back. Come from a place of solving their problems, not you trying to make money. Honesty, transparency is most important. And learn to take no and just say next. Next time, next person. And I love to tell my salespeople, when you get a no, celebrate. And set a goal for how many no's you want to get during the day. You want to get 100 no's. Because we find in our business, for every 9 no's, we get a yes. So the more no's you get, the faster you get there. But a lot of times people are so disappointed by the no's, they're afraid to make that next call. They don't want that rejection again. And the last thing I would say is study sales. I mean, there's a lot of books about how to be a better salesperson. So read them. Try the different closings. Try the different ways to ask questions, etc. So make a study of it. I've read over 3,000 books. I only know that because I got divorced about 10 years ago, and I had to count up all the books, part of the divorce settlement, and it was 3,000 of them. That was 10 years ago, so I probably read a lot more since then. So, be a student and really just go out there and do it. As far as entrepreneurs go, I would say, one, I'm going to say read one of my best friend's books called The E-Myth. It's called Michael Gerber. It's the entrepreneurial myth. Most entrepreneurs just have a job. They don't really delegate enough, and they don't really build their business to, as he teaches, to franchise it. You may never franchise it, but you have to build it in such a way that everything in the business is systematized so that it's not living in one person's brain, especially yours. And when I started my business, I did everything. It was in my kitchen. I had 2 file cabinets and a hollow core door going across, and a typewriter. And eventually, I started hiring people, often for free, and just come work, be an intern, whatever. And I would also say to just build it up slowly. And now I've got 12 employees and 14 subcontractors, and we do a lot of work in the world. But
is it possible to put even your business to work without you, because you are in a business that the product, it's mainly you?
Well, that's what we're currently working on right now. So originally, that it was me. If I didn't show up, there was no income. And we realized that's not sustainable, especially when you start getting older and having this color hair. So, so we have a company called the Canfield Training Group, and but I now have 12 coaches that if I die, they can still keep coaching. We now have a home study program where people can learn to teach and be a trainer on the internet. And so if I died tomorrow, that could still go on. We have products, we have trainings that are all designed that other people can teach. I've trained over 500 trainers to teach my programs around the world. And I have 1,000 people that have graduated from our online training program. So now it's become a legacy movement and a sustainable. And we're now adding other courses besides what I teach. I have a leadership course that's taught by a woman from Canada named Kathleen Seeley, who's a professor of leadership up at Royal Roads College, and she's now doing leadership trainings through our company. We have other things that we're building into the program right now. So eventually, it'll be like a real university, and I'll have been the founder, but not all the professors. So it'll go on without me.
What do you think is the main cause that people, both personally and in business, fail?
I think number one, they're undercapitalized. And number two, they quit too soon. I think that, in my business, I started with a $10,000 loan from my mother-in-law. And I knew I had to be successful immediately or we were going out of business, right? But I think a lot of days today, you see that companies don't have enough money to actually survive that first 3 years, which is what it usually takes. So whether it's, friends, family, or investors, you got to make sure you have enough money to play the game. And often it's partners. Sometimes it's going on Shark Tank or, something like that. But be willing to have a really good business plan. A lot of people, they just start. They don't have a business plan. And by having a good business plan, it forces you to think deeper than most people think before they start. And if you share that plan with other people, as I did when I developed mine, I went to the banks for money, didn't get it, but they kept refining my plan. They said, well, come back with this. We need to know that. How are you going to do that? And finally, my mother-in-law said, oh, hell with it, I'll give you the money, So that's how it started. But today I could get a business loan from a bank because I know what I'm doing a lot more. But I think that's the main thing. And then people give up too soon. I told you that my book was rejected by 144 publishers. It took us 2 years to find a publisher. It took us 14 months before our book hit a bestseller list. Many people, when they publish a book, if it doesn't hit the bestseller list in the first 6 months, they stop working on it. We did 5 things every day for 14 months, 5 things. Call 5 radio stations, call 5 churches and see if we could deliver a sermon and sell our books in the back of the church at the end of the sermon. We sent books to 5 bookstores every day and said, will you carry our book? We'd call them up a week later. Did you get the book? Did you read it? And it took that long, but then eventually, like a geometric progression, like a chain letter, it took off. And that book went on to create a company that, when I sold it, was $63 million that we got for it. That was a book that nobody wanted at first.
Yeah. Poor publishers. And in the end, if you would give just one advice about financial success, what would it be?
I would
Besides
say,
everything that you already said,
well, I would say
being responsible.
there's 2 keys to financial success. One is you got to make money, and you got to save it and invest it. So what my mentor told me when I was very young is take 10% of your income, 20% if you can, or more if possible, and invest it in something that will make interest, whether it's an investment fund, stocks, bonds, real estate, your own company, whatever it might be. If you were born and from day one, every day saved $1 and invested it, by the time you were 65, you'd be worth several $1 million because of compound interest. Most young people don't do that. Most young people want the car, the fancy clothes, the Mont Blanc pen, whatever it is, the latest audio and TV equipment. And so they're going to debt, on their credit cards. So what my mentor taught me was take money and invest it. And do it early. The earlier you do it, the more it builds up, So literally, if you only make $25,000 a year and you work for 40 years, you've had $1 million. 40 times 25 is $1 million go through your hand. And most people retire in America, $25,000 in debt. They don't even have a net worth, they have debt. And so it's key that you have to build that up so that you can have a retirement that you can live on and have money to invest when investment opportunities come along. I mean, I can tell you, everyone I've ever met said, God, if I'd only bought Microsoft, if I'd only bought Apple stock, if I'd only bought that land in Florida on the ocean when it was $200 an acre, now it's worth $1 million every 100 feet, I'd be a billionaire. Well, when the opportunities come, you have to have the money. And if you don't save it, you don't have it.
Do you think that we have a lot of opportunities around us?
Everywhere.
Everybody?
Everywhere.
And everybody?
Everybody. I don't care who you are. I'll tell you a story I just put in a book. It's about a guy in China. He was very, very poor. He tended cows during the day, and he made like a penny or something a day. And at night, when everyone else was at home, he would go down by the river, and he would take a sickle, and he would cut grass, and he would dry it and make it into hay. Then he would sell that hay to the farmers for another couple pennies. And he wanted to learn to read because he couldn't go to school. He didn't have any money. He had to work. And so it took him 5 years to buy a dictionary. And then he bought a dictionary. And then he learned all the words. Then he saved up for another 5 years to buy an encyclopedia. Today we have Wikipedia, right? But he bought an encyclopedia because he wanted to know what all those words meant and study history and all that. And by the time he was in his 20, I think he was 25 years old, he'd so educated by himself, self-educated, that he was able to get a better job. He got a better job, and he made a lot of money, and he made a lot of more money, and he invested, and invested, and invested. Now he is the manufacturer of windshields for cars, and he's almost a billionaire. So anybody, I don't care where you start.
Great. I think this is a very good advice to finish our interview. Jack, thank you very much for your advices and for your time, and I hope you enjoy Romania.
I'm already enjoying it, and thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.